Yesterday I pulled this off and I test fitted the guide on here. Based off of a little research I did on, I believe it was like maybe 2004, the older blocks, they actually already had these holes pre-drilled, and if you're able to find one of these older brown, guides, you could just bolt it right in. The newer guides, which are I think like the LS3, they're a black guide, and the actual distance between the screws are shorter, and so that causes some, I mean, if you have the block where they haven't been pre-drilled from the factory, if you were to try to use that one, they get really close to the edges, and I think it's a little too sketchy. So if you can find one of these older brown ones, I got this with a kit that had an adapter to it, and let me show you that. And this is the adapter I got with the kit. Well, you're supposed to, put it over here with the underneath the cam gear. You see, let me take the cam gear off. Pretty much it, if you didn't want to drill and tap your block, which is understandable, or if you happen to drill and tap it and you messed it up, well, this could be an option. This could be an option. And what it seems like it does is it would bolt onto here, and then it'll allow these to screw in here. It's possible even, I'm not sure if this was meant for a double roller or anything like that, but it's possible even, you could do that. But that gives the proper spacing. This is where I'm referring to. This is where it would be. From what I understand, the older 97, 98, the older LS1 blocks, these are not pre-drilled, and I'm quite happy that these are pre-drilled. That saves me a lot of trouble. And I mean, it wasn't a lot. I mean, it was like $100 or $80. I can't remember exactly how much this was. It was pretty cheap for the whole set. GM used to make these, but from what I understand, they don't make them anymore. But yeah, it's very tempting. I'm so close. Very tempting to want to change the cam, but then I want to see what it is stock first, and then go up from the mods and the power, get it dynoed, and I don't want to have to worry about tuning and all that stuff right from the get-go. I know that if it has a stock cam in it, just the startup and the idle is a lot easier. Cold start, all that stuff is easier to deal with. And if I start adding, a cam and stuff like that, it gives it a little bit more difficult time for the initial startup. So I want to make sure it actually works for me before I start doing all that. All right, I'm going to put some thread lock on these bolts because I don't want them backing out. And I'm going to put these down to 18 foot-pounds, as well as the cam sprocket going to 26 foot-pounds. And let's see, pretty much everything. I mean, the tensioner is 18 foot-pounds. We'll give the cam sprocket 26 foot-pounds, and these cover bolts are 18 foot-pounds. These are, the oil pump also are 18 foot-pounds. And I am going to put thread lock on the oil pump bolts, cam sprocket bolts, obviously, the guide bolts, and it looks like even the timing cover looks like it had some thread lock on there as well from the factory, so I'm going to put some on there as well, but I'm not going to change this cover quite yet, not till I get the thing flipped over and get the new oil pump pickup mounted. All right, well, let's go ahead and get these get the guide bolted in. All right, I picked up some blue stick thread locker, and you just pull off the top just like chapstick. Rotate some on here. Rotate some on here. Like I said, I'm going to work on these to 18 foot-pounds. I'm going to get these tightened up. 18 foot-pounds. Okay, I got my old timing chain and my new timing chain, and this pretty much, I don't think it's really anything more than, I mean, a little bit better than stock, but that's about it. Let's put a little bit of oil down in the bag. All right, I'm gonna wipe off the sprocket around the edges. It seems a little bit gritty from something. So just clean this up a little bit. And then the oil from the chain, I'll oil up this around this edge where it goes on and mounts onto next to the block. I will oil that up, and the chain will keep a lot of the rest of this lubricated. But you see, you have the timing for top dead center, then the key for at the 3 o'clock position. I put the timing chain in some oil. Just get a little bit of that oil and line this up. And go ahead and put it around the cam guide, and now you need to be able to just slide it on the crank. Make sure to be lining up the top dead center. That looks good. Let's take a closer look. So I got the chain lined up on the crank, have the position timed for top dead center. Of course, all those linked up and pushed on. I'm gonna go ahead and get these snug. I'm not gonna get them to the 26 foot-pounds yet. I'm gonna get these snug, and then I'm gonna turn over the engine a couple times, make sure nothing binds. I'll go ahead and do them to 26. I'll give them 26 foot-pounds, and now I'm going to rotate it to make sure it doesn't bind. Before I get the bolts and put them into 26 foot-pounds, these look a little, I mean, they got a little bit of grime on them. So I'm going to go ahead and clean these off with Purple Power. And then I'm going to Loctite them, because you definitely don't want that backing out. I'm going to Loctite them and then put it in on the cam sprocket. All right, I got them all cleaned up. They look nice and clean now, but get some Loctite on them. One more. $26 foot-pounds. There we go. So I picked up the Melling 10296. 10296, and this is a stock, I guess it's a stock size replacement, but it's a high volume and it can be a high pressure. Inside the housing here, it comes with a red 70 psi for oil pressure, or you could also have the green, shade of green here, and this is a 60 psi, and I'm going to put the 60 psi. This does, however, flow 18% more volume than the stock pump, so that should help dealing with any oil starvation and things like that. So yeah, well, let's get this spring in. One thing to note on as far as the oil sump pickup tube, we have 2 gaskets, and the instructions say that if it has like a tapered in, a bulbed in, you want to use the green, or if it's a tapered in, so it starts and then gets smaller, then you want the green. But if it's just a straight shot, you'll use the black. And I'm not sure which one the Siki oil pump pickup tube is yet, so I'm going to wait till decide for that. But once we get this on and end up getting it in, we're going to flip the engine upside down. All right, go ahead and get the red spring out. You notice it's red spring, and this is 70 psi. As you remember, 70 psi, and then the one we're putting in, the green one, is 60 psi. It just drops down in there in the center. And one thing to take note, the spring obviously sits inside the hole. And push it down, and you could tell even from unscrewing and screwing it that the other one is a lot higher pressure. I mean, the spring is already tight. The green one's a lot easier to push in. Just get it torqued down, and then you're good to go. One thing you definitely do not want to do is dry start with the oil pump dry, especially brand new. I mean, that would just that would not be good. So one way of helping it help get some oil down into the gears, as you can see here, pouring it down into the oil pickup. We'll pour a little bit of oil down in there, move the gears around, just try to get them a little bit lubricated. Oh yeah, I could definitely feel it all lubricated in there now. Getting the oil pump on, you can see that the crankshaft has some keys. You can see that even the oil pump is keyed. So we'll want to try to get these fitted to where they slide on. Alright, there you go. Alright, with the oil pump on, we definitely don't want those coming out. Put a little bit of Loctite, oil pump bolts. And these are going to go to 18 foot-pounds. And we're going to tighten this in a star pattern, even though I'm not installing them in a star pattern. I'm just getting them initiated. We'll torque them down 1, 2, 3, 4, something like that. A lot tight in there. And what we'll do after this is it's highly recommended when putting on the front cover, if you don't have the alignment tool, to put on the harmonic balancer. But before we put on the harmonic balancer, you know, to help line it up, I want to flip it over, flip the engine over and get the Sicky oil pickup and the Sicky oil pump, the Sicky oil pump pickup tube and the Sicky oil pan, and I want to get those installed, or at least started. It's kind of like a little bit of a puzzle, because the oil pan and the front cover and the rear cover you could do, as long as there's no more than was it 0.5 millimeters or something like that, or 0.02 inches. As long as there's no more spacing than that, then you put a little bead of silicone on there. But with the front one, you want to have it lined up properly in order to get the harmonic balancer on, so there's no front oil pan, front main seal leaks. And these are 10 millimeter bolts again. Get it a little bit close. These are fairly loose. 18 foot-pounds. For some reason, I didn't set it to 18. Let's go to 18. There we go, 18. There we go. Just a tad over, and that's the oil pump on. So I would recommend, if you were at this point and you were buttoning stuff up, you know, I'd put the, if you have this lowered a little bit, I'd put the front cover on, then I'd put the balancer, harmonic balancer on. That way it sits it right, and then torque down the front cover bolts. Possibly, like when you have it seat, when it is sat, and you have these a little bit loose, if you tighten down the bottom ones, maybe it'll bring it down. But as long as you have the harmonic balancer on, it'll be nice and set, and then you just bolt everything down. I like it with taking the oil pan off, because then it's kind of like rebuilding the whole thing. All right, well, let's flip this engine around. The front timing chain cover bolts were really nasty, so I went ahead and soaked them in some Purple Power, and they're coming out a lot better. They're really kind of grimy, so I'll wipe these down. I'm going to go ahead and clean the surface of the block, but I'm going to put the old front timing chain cover on one more time. That way, you know, I'm just going to put the old one on for now, and I'll rotate the engine over, and then I'll be able to take off the oil pan work on the rear cover, change the rear main seal, put on the Sicky pickup tube and the Sicky oil pan and the front cover all at the same time. I think I'm going to tackle that for tomorrow. My kid wants to go to Six Flags, so we're going to go to Six Flags. As you notice on the timing guide, or the chain guide, there is very little slack on there, and that will keep it guided well. It doesn't put any tension on it, but it definitely keeps it from any chain slap. But yeah, let me go ahead and put this cover on, and then I'll leave it sitting up, and then tomorrow we'll tackle putting on the other stuff.